What's this? Crap, not again. Crap. Naturally, I had more colorful words than that, is what I said this morning when I walked into the shop and turned on the monitor expecting the VCR I fixed yesterday to be displaying a nice picture and everything's ready to ship back. And I had a black screen. And I went, oh crap. What's wrong with this piece of crap now? We've got a problem, Houston. This is what I really love about this really old electronics. Let's see what's wrong. So if this looks familiar, it is. It didn't even make it out the door. When I repair this vintage equipment, I always test run it. Everything that I work on gets tested for 24 hours before I release it. And there's a reason that's done, and especially when you're dealing with old equipment. It's because, well, things can break. Now, last night when I finished this one, I ran Titanic through it. I ran Jurassic Park through it a couple times. And I ran my little video with my scenery on it through it a couple times. In fact, when I went to bed, it was still playing. All I did was I turned off the TV. Figured I would run another tape through it this morning. And if it was okay, I could put it back in the box and get it ready to send. And when I went down into the shop this morning and turned on the TV, I was greeted with blank screen. No video from the tuner. No video from the tape. It's in play now. I have no output. The tape is playing. The TV will blank the sound if there's no signal. I'll plug my color bar generator in and see whether I can whether it pulls the sound from the from the tape or the tuner. But let me just plug my color bar generator in. So I'll just unplug the video cable from the back of the VCR and plug it into my color bar generator. And there's the sound coming off the tape. So the playback audio is good. Yeah, hi-fi, you can hear it crackling away there. So it's got no video. So something's gone wrong in the video circuit and knocked out the video. I'll just stop the tape and see if there's sound from the tuner. Should be music. And there is, so the tuner is working. So we have a video signal problem on here. We're going to go back to the video board. I mean, that capacitor that was changed was in the video output that was bad, that one that was leaking. We can check the video right there, actually. I can actually use a scope this time because when I worked on it yesterday, I didn't need to use a scope. I knew that the video output circuit was in here. I just bridged the first cap that was near the output and the picture restored. And that's why I didn't do any troubleshooting with the scope, because it wasn't needed. I just went right to where I figured the fault might be, and it was. So I'll turn the board around so that I can get access here. And we're going to start going through with the scope and see if we can find out where that signal is missing. Here's a tip: if you have to extend your ground lead on your scope probe, pull the insulation over it so that if you're dragging your scope probe around, you don't accidentally short something out on the board. So I'm just going to start looking for video signals in this area here and see that I do actually have a video signal right there on the base of the video output transistor, and I have nothing on the collector. Interesting. So maybe our fault is right here. This could be a real short video. I'll show you guys the scope just so you can see what I'm looking at, but this could be a very short video indeed. The first part I checked, video output, I have nothing. I'll show you guys the scope. This is Q2C0. There's the base for Q2C0, and there's the collector. I don't see anything there. And emitter, I see nothing there. So next we'll check the voltage on that transistor and see if there's getting any voltage to it. As well, there's no supply voltage to it, there won't be an output. So let's check that next. If I was being really ambitious, I'd set up a second camera just to shoot the scope, but we'll do this single camera and I'll pan it back and forth as I'm making my test measurements. Now, the problem with solder mask is that, well, it masks what you're trying to see. And when you've got silk screening on the board, it makes it even harder to try to trace electronics if you do not have a schematic, which I don't. So I know I've got video here, but I've got no video here. So I have to trace this and see where the power comes from. So I had to scrape away some of this solder mask. I know it makes it hard to see on camera, but with the magnifiers I can see how things are connected. And how they are connected is the collector, I guess emitter collector base. So collector is connected to this trace here, which goes back to ground. Emitter is connected to my capacitor, which has got my output video on it, and it goes back through to R2D6, and the other side of that resistor is probably where the power is coming in, and I don't see any power on there. Well, I hope if my meter's in the right mode. Where are we here? R2D6. I've got 0.000 volts there. How about the other side here? So we may be missing a voltage going into the video output amplifier. Either that or the transistor shorted. We can check the transistor. I mean, transistors don't generally short that often, but we can check it. Let's get my meter out here into diode test mode. We'll check this transistor. Oh, what? Transistor shorted? Nah. Transistors don't short, do they? Well, maybe it did. Maybe that transistor shorted. We'll just disconnect one leg of the output transistor and see whether that transistor has gone bad, because it certainly could. It certainly could go. It could have failed. We'll just disconnect one leg of that transistor and measure it again and see whether it's still measuring a short emitter to collector. This still might be a fast fix. Is this transistor shorted? No, it's not. It's not shorted, but there is a short. Where was that? Where'd that short go? I did have a short there. Well, that's connected directly to it. I was measuring a short here a minute ago, and now I'm not. That's going to see if the voltage pops back onto that leg with the transistor disconnected. So there won't be any video, of course, now. But I'll turn it on with the transistor disconnected, and I'll just measure the voltage that would normally be received at it, and I have 10 volts. Interesting, and I had 0 volts before. So maybe that transistor, oh, you know what? Now, I just reconnected it with the probe, and the picture came on, so this transistor must be bad, and heating it up to disconnect it cleared the short, because we clearly saw that there was a short, and now it's gone. And watch what happens when I just put my probe on there and reconnect that transistor. So I have no video, and I just reconnect the transistor, and video comes back on. So we've developed a bad transistor. I guess I got to change that. Interesting. I mean, it's just normally that doesn't happen. Like, you don't normally get parts that just fail after they're running 24 hours. Well, I didn't even make it 24 hours. It was more like, I don't know, I think I finished this around 7 o'clock last night, when I actually got the video done, or not the video, but when I actually got the VCR done. It was around 7 o'clock because I finished it just before dinner. Then I went and had my dinner, and then I sat down and I edited the video while I was watching a hockey game. So I was watching the Canucks kick the Kings' ass. We didn't really kick their ass, but we beat them in overtime, which is all that matters. Anyway, watching the game out of one eye on one screen, and putting the video together on the other screen, and then I started rendering. But I had the tape playing. I put on Titanic, which was like it was a 2-tape. I only have 1 tape. Somebody gave me a VCR with Titanic Part 1 in it. A lot of good that is. I put that in. I let that tape run all the way through to the end. And then I put on Jurassic Park, and I let that play all the way through to the end. And then when I was time to go to bed, I put it on again and let it play through a 3rd time. And by the time I checked it this morning at around, I don't know, I guess it was around 9 this morning, I turned on the TV, fully expecting it to be just sitting on my test tuner channel, channel 4, and there was no picture. And I thought, what the hell? It's gone dead. Okay, I'm going to pop that transistor out and see what it is, and see if I've got a replacement. It's just going to be a general purpose, so hopefully I've got one that I can just stick in there. I'm sure I do. I'm sure I can find something, because it's nothing real special about this. It's just a general purpose amplifier. See, by now I figured I would be digging into a DAT recorder, but this is what happens. And let's say this is why I always test stuff thoroughly before sending it out, just because, especially when I have to ship stuff across the country, or in this case across the province, You don't want the thing. You don't want to have to get the thing back. I mean, it does happen. It does happen that things do fail. But that's why we test. The guy I worked for, he never understood that, right? He was always one of these type of guys that don't test it, because he was so concerned that I was going to watch TV on his precious time, even though the son of a bitch I worked for did not pay me by the hour in the last, I don't know, 10 years I was there. He took me off hourly and put me on piecework. So that was to incentivize me to work faster and get things done faster and not put as much quality into the repair, because if it was sitting on a bench wasting space, I wasn't making money. But the guy I worked for, he was always concerned that, if a TV was turned on or something was left turned on under test, whether it was a stereo or a TV or whatever, he was always concerned that we were being distracted, myself and the two guys that worked in the shop with me. We were being distracted by the TVs running, as if we really gave a rat's ass about soap operas or Sally Jesse Raphael or Phil Donahue or what's the other guy, Jerry Springer. As if we really cared about the losers that were on that show. We were running equipment to make sure that it was fixed properly and it wasn't going to act up again. And but the guy I worked for, he had other thoughts. He did not want people wasting any time testing things thoroughly. So yeah, we had a few boomerangs because of exactly this, where if had it run overnight, leave it turned off. But no, we couldn't do that either, because he was always concerned that something might catch fire. So I had to turn everything off at night. The shop I started with when I was in high school, the guy that ran that shop, he was a test freak, and he would leave stuff turned on. Like all the TVs he worked on, he would leave them turned on all night. And if they were still working in the morning, then he would deliver them back. But he would never just run it for 10 minutes and shut it off. It was always everything got run for 6 or 7 or 8 hours. I like to run things overnight, and just to make sure that they're still working in the morning. And if they're still working in the morning, I'm pretty confident that the problem has been solved. This transistor, actually, when I look at it closely, it looks like it might have had some capacitor juice from that cap that was in there next to it leaking yesterday, doesn't it? That might be what's wrong, but I'm sure that the transistor is FUBAR. I mean, when I heated it up, it started working, but it might have been just the crud that looks like that had leaked around here, causing a short. You see the crud that's leaking around there? But I'm going to change it anyway. Just going to see what it is. It is a, what is this thing? It's so small. Where's my magnifiers? 2SA933. Let me see what that is, and I'll see if I can find one. It's a PNP transistor. It's equivalent to an ECG 290A. There's one junction there. There's the other junction there. Yeah, so I mean, it's testing okay now. It's not testing shorted. But when I tested it in circuit, it certainly showed shorted. And then when I took it out of circuit, now again, it could have been just that capacitor gunge that leaked out of that other cap, shorting it out here. But I'm going to find a new one. It's a PNP. It's just a general purpose video amplifier, so that shouldn't be too difficult to find. I got another one here. The basing is different. The original was a base collector emitter. This is emitter base collector, so I just have to reverse the leads here and get the leads in the correct position. A base collector emitter is the basing on the board, and this one's a emitter base collector, so I just have to reverse these two ones around so that it becomes base collector emitter, kind of like that. It's always fun to change the basing of the transistor leads around, but that's okay. I got lots of room. I can stick it in the board like that. So it's base collector emitter, and that should hopefully make this thing work. So let me just get this transistor back through the board here. It's fun because there's not a lot of room. I mean, it could be a cowboy and just install it on the top like so many guys did. That was quite common, actually. People installing the parts on the top of the board just because it was easier. I'm not going to say I'm not guilty as charged for doing that, because I'm sure over the years it probably did happen. Oh, I did it on this one. I installed that cap on the top, so there you go. Alright, the transistor is through the board. Let's just solder it back down and try it out. Am I going to get video when I plug this thing in? I guess we'll find out pretty quick. I have video. There we go. Alright, it's working again. So, one transistor went bad after it ran for like 12 hours. That's always fun. But at least it broke while it was still here and not after it got sent back to Penticton, because nobody likes having to ship things back. Shipping is expensive. That's usually the most expensive part these days of repairing anything, is shipping stuff back and forth. The post office makes lots of money off of repairs. Anyway, once again it's working. I'll put my tape on here, wherever I did with it. And let it play some more before sending it back. Make sure that everything's still working on playback. And there's playback. And we have sound. So there you go. It's all done again. And you learned something new this time, right? First of all, how to use a scope. Even though, I did need the scope on this one. Didn't need it yesterday, but I did today. Yesterday I just got lucky. I just went to that first capacitor on the video output, and that was the one that was bad. Today though, I did need it to find the transistor, and we've learned something new here. That sometimes components get damaged from other things. It's very possible that this transistor got damaged by electrolytic that was leaking out of the capacitor that was mounted next to it. It didn't appear that it leaked that much. The cap is still here. I think this is it here. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, and I mean, this one didn't even look to be leaking that bad. You can see, I guess there's a little bit of leak right there. And which is odd, because the unit, like the unit's mounted like this. The transistor is actually quite close to it. But I mean, you would think if the capacitor was leaking, anything that leaked out of the cap would have run down the cap and not onto the board, because it's hanging on the bottom side of the board. Unless this thing was stored, if it was stored on its side or stored upside down or something, where maybe it was stored on its side and the leakage that came out of this leaked down and leaked onto, because you can certainly see a residue there on the bottom of that transistor, and I'm sure that's where the problem happened. Was it was either shorting it out just through leakage, and when I heated it up to unsolder it, I cleared that short. But it clearly was shorted when I measured it in circuit. And then when I heated it up and unsoldered the one leg, the short went away, and then when I just reconnected it temporarily, the video started working. So either heating it up fixed the junction, which is possible, or it was crap on there. Anyway, another part failed on this. What else is going to fail? And that's the thing that I always, when I talk to people about repairing their old equipment, say, yeah, I can fix it, but you can change all the parts that are bad, but you don't know, like every other part in here could conceivably break down, and it could break down tomorrow, it could break down 2 years from now, it could break down 10 years from now. But you don't know, right? You never know when you repair electronics how long things are going to last. And this is something that people don't seem to understand when they come back to me months later and say, oh, you fixed this thing and now it's not working. Like that reel-to-reel that sat here for a year that just got picked up. the one that the sound faded out. I fixed that thing for that woman. She recapped it herself and then brought it to me just to, what did we do on it? I forgot what I did originally. I think it was just calibrating the bias for the amplifier on it and setting it up. And then it came back because she said the sound was fading out on it. And that one took forever to find. It took 2 days to find the problem. And well, it sat here. It just got picked up. The unit had a birthday here. You know, it was fixed for months before it was actually picked up. And then she also took away another one that she gave me. She gave me an old one that had water damage that I was never probably ever going to work on, old Sony. And she said, "Can I have it back?" I said, "Sure, take it back. I'm not going to work on it. It's got water damage. What's good is it to me? The cabinet was all in bad shape and the boards were all wet, so she wanted it for her parts because she bought another one that had missing parts." So I said, "Here, yeah, take it, and get it out of here." So I've actually got some little bit more space with 2 giant reel-to-reel machines that were sitting on the floor, gone. But that's the thing, when you deal with this old electronics, it doesn't matter. You can change all the caps in it, but in this case we did. We changed 4, we changed 6. I mean, there's lots more than that, but you can't change them all. But even if you do, what about the other parts? You can't change every part, is what I'm getting at. So you change the parts that you know are obviously bad, and you hope for the best, because you can't change them all. Anyway, I'm going to let this one run now for another few hours before I box it up and say thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll have time to do something else today. But we'll get this one up early so I can work on something else once I finish the test on this. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.